Hello, students. It is Tuesday, January 11th, 2022. I have a sore throat. I also have 3 kids that developed symptoms and tested positive yesterday, so I'm staying home for the week. Um, I'm sorry to say. So I'm going to be teaching you via YouTube. You'll have these videos to watch, and then there'll be worksheets to go along with them each day, and I'll post answer keys to the worksheets. I hope to be back by a week from today. I think that the quarantine rules say that that should be okay. Um, but in the meantime, this is how we'll be communicating. So there's just one more topic that I wanted to go over in this particular unit on polygons, and it's the idea of a mid-segment. So a mid-segment, and you should write all of this down in your notebook. A mid-segment is a line segment that connects the midpoints of 2 sides of any polygon. And we're just going to look at triangles and then trapezoids in a minute and look at some of the characteristics. And so now all of these points that you see in this diagram are midpoints. And that means that these 2 segments are congruent, and these 2 segments are congruent, and of course, these 2 segments are congruent. So I've got, that's the first thing to notice, but when I draw a mid-segment is a segment that connects those 2 midpoints. So that red line, that I just drew is a mid-segment, okay? If you look at that, just, use your eyeballs and your intuition and see if you notice anything about that. And I'm going to tell you one of the things that's important to know. That mid-segment that I just highlighted is the same length as this amount of that segment that's it's opposite to. In other words, it's half the length. It's the same length as half of the opposite side. And so one very important characteristic of mid-segments is that they are 1/2 the length of the opposite side. And if I draw all of the mid-segments like this, well, that means that this one is 1/2 the length of the opposite side, but this mid-segment that I just drew here on the top is 1/2 the length of its opposite side, so it gets 2 tick marks. And then finally, this segment here gets 1 tick mark because it's 1/2 the length of its opposite side. And so when you do that, you divide this up into 4 triangles. And do you notice that all 4 of these triangles have to be congruent? All 4 triangles are congruent by side, side, side. So that's just kind of fascinating. But using this half the length of the opposite side idea comes in handy, as you'll see in the example that we'll do in a minute. Now I'm going to erase some of this stuff so I can just demonstrate one other thing, which is if I go back to this original mid-segment here, do you notice that it is actually parallel to its opposite side as well? It is. And so the other thing to know about mid-segments of triangles is that they are parallel to the opposite side. And that can be useful if you need to find angles. For instance, if I knew that this was a 50-degree angle, then this would also be a 50-degree angle because those are corresponding angles because these are parallel sides. Okay, so mid-segments are half the length of the opposite side, and they're also parallel to the opposite side. Now let's do an example. Take a moment and you can copy this down. I just used the same diagram, but I said find the perimeter of triangle ABC. And one thing that's given is that the length of segment AB is 14 units, I guess, 14 units. So if AB is 14 units, okay, that's useful. That actually tells us that YZ is 7 units. And I'm not sure if that's going to help us solve this problem, but it might. It also says that BC is 20 units. Okay, so that's this entire length here. That's 20 units. And that also means then that XZ would be 10 units. Now, ultimately, we're supposed to find the perimeter of triangle ABC. Well, that's this entire triangle here. And let's see here. I already know that this is 14 and this is 20. I just need to know the length of AC. And I don't know that, but I am given the fact that XY is 12 units. So if XY is 12 units, that means that, remember that it's half the side that it's opposite. So that means that AC have to be double that, or 24 units. And so to find the perimeter, I would just take 14 plus 20 plus 24 and add them together. What is that? 34, 54, 58 units. Okay. On the worksheet, there are other examples where it might say find the perimeter of A, X, Y, C or something, where you have to figure out, the length of all the sides and find the perimeter of a quadrilateral. But I think you'll figure that out. So then the other one that I want to look at are the midsegments of trapezoids. This is a trapezoid, and a trapezoid, as you recall, has one set of sides that are parallel to one another. Now, these are midpoints, and so I can mark the diagram thusly, but that means that the line that I just drew there that I'll highlight is also a midsegment. Now, in addition to being midsegments of trapezoids are also parallel to I'll just say the bases, because that's what we call these parallel sides. So that is parallel to the bases. But the other thing that it's a little bit harder to figure out, and we would have done this as an investigation in class, but I'll just tell you. The midsegment is also equal to the average of the bases. And so if I call this midsegment M, and this base 1 and this base 2, then I could say that the length of the midsegment is equal to base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, because that's how I find the average of two numbers. I add them together and divide by 2. And so we can still use the whole, corresponding angles and same side interior angles and so on to find various angles, and you'll do that in a little bit. But finding the length of midsegments or other bases can be useful as well. So here I have one last example for this video where I said find X. Okay, and so what I know is that base 1 is 16 and the midsegment is 23. And I'm supposed to find base 2. Okay, that's what I don't know. But I have that the idea that the midsegment is equal to the average of the two bases. So I'm going to start by writing that. And then I'm going to substitute in the things that I know. Like I know, oops, darn it, I hate it when that happens. I know that the midsegment is 23 units. And so I'll substitute a 23 in place of the letter M. And let's see here. I have a 16 for base 1. So I'll plug in a 16 here. And 16. And then base 2 is X. That's what I'm looking for. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. So base 1 is 16. Base 2 is X. And then I divide that by 2. And then I just have to solve for X. It's not that difficult, right? I'll multiply both sides by 2. And I get 46 equals 16 plus X. Simple. Subtract 16. You get 30 equals X. And so this has to be a 30 unit length side. One last thing to mention is that notice that the difference between the base and the midsegment from 16 to 23, that's an addition of 7 units. And from 30 to 23 is also 7 units. That's the nature of being the average, right? It's halfway between the two bases. So if there's a 7 unit difference here, there's also a 7 unit difference there. Just do your very best on the worksheet that I've provided. And again, answers will be posted tomorrow. And then starting tomorrow, there will be review stuff for the upcoming final. So that'll be fun. Anyway, I miss you. Take care.